Dads are some of the most dangerous people I ever encountered when I was working as an outdoor adventure guide. And this dude who killed a girl, permanently disabled another girl, and traumatized a whole boat of girls, teenage girls, because he was speeding and going in the wrong direction and had a bunch of booze on the boat. This guy is a classic example of exactly what I'm talking about. Before I get into more details about this dude, I was a whitewater raft guide, a ski instructor, outdoor adventure guide, backpacking guide, like all that stuff. And whenever I had to work river trip on the Colorado River, either the upper Colorado or the lower Colorado River with students, mostly teenagers, in canoes, my biggest fear was not rattlesnakes or scorpions or the weather and floods or any of that stuff, like flash flood. It was men like this. The closer you got to the lake, the more it would have dudes like this who were drunk or not even drunk, just high on adrenaline, trying to impress their friends or whatever. It was men like this that almost got my students killed more than once. And then this guy has the audacity to show up in court and just cry, which reminds me a lot of this dude. You know, the guy who that famous runner, Oscar, whatever, who murdered his wife and then did this in court. He's just so devastated by what he did on purpose. And luckily, not everyone fell for it. But don't fall for this man crying either. This man is not centering the needs, the emotions, the trauma of his victims and their family by doing all this in court. This is him trying to manipulate the jury and public opinion so that we don't forget that this poor millionaire feels really bad about what he did, and that we should definitely take that into consideration rather than all of the trauma that these girls and their families have gone through and will continue to go through for the rest of their life. Just like white woman tears, the crocodile tears of men like this who've done terrible things, they are purely for manipulation, and men will use that whenever they want to weaponize our maternal crap that we're taught under patriarchy. Oh, you know, he's a big, strong man until he does something wrong, and then he's just a poor little baby boy who feels bad. Don't fall for it, because this 17-year-old Lucy Fernandez is dead because of this man's recklessness, his hubris. Do I think he did it on purpose? No. Do I think he should be held accountable? Absolutely. And I understand that accidents happen, of course. But what I'm so sick of seeing are women and children, especially, dying in the hands of men in the wilderness because they're using either the wilderness itself, the weather, the terrain, blah, 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 or boats, cars, whatever it is, to put people in harm's way because these people trust these men. We've been conditioned to trust them. They've been conditioned to have all of the arrogance and confidence in the world, not really respect their own lives, much less the lives, the emotional safety and physical safety of people who depend on them and look up to them. And because they're dads, we just assume they know what the fuck they're doing, and they don't most of the time. I'm not saying don't go in the wilderness. I'm saying learn it yourself and trust yourself, because this man injured 11 out of 14 passengers on that boat. 6 were transported to the hospital. 1 died. Impact threw everyone on board into the water. And then Katy, one of his daughter's other friends, who's now 21, who lived, she has a traumatic brain injury and will have a lifetime of disability. She's 21 now. She will forever be dependent on her family or other people or really expensive equipment and all of these things to help her with these disabilities that are a direct result of this man's carelessness and I would argue his ego. Now, the enraging part is they didn't even do an alcohol test on him. They found a ton of alcohol on the boat, but just like all people with drinking problems, but especially men who want to convince you that they're not drinking. Wait, he had 1 or 2 beers. Why is it always 1 or 2? I swear to God, that's like standard answer. So he may have actually even been drunk, but if a lot of people with drinking problems can hide how drunk they are pretty easily, but according to other, witnesses, he didn't appear very drunk, but all the girls on the boat were drinking. So he was that's also kind of weird to be. It's like, what are you doing on a boat with all these 17-year-old girls who, some of them are drinking 1 for 1. They're getting wasted. I'm not saying that parents can't be around when their teens are drinking. Sometimes I think it's even safer. But in this situation, their lives are in your hand. And you're also drinking and you're speeding and you're just going on the wrong way and feeding these teenagers alcohol. I think that's kind of a bad scenario, man. I'm going to get to what the judge said in a minute and just some more of the stuff that's happening in court, because I'm glad that she at least called this out. Dude, stop having people hug you so that everyone, including the jury, starts to sympathize with you poor baby who's in trauma, rather than sympathize with the victims and the families first. Look at this boat. Look at this freaking boat, y'all. All the people went over it, capsized, because he hit this thing so hard, this steel thing so hard. Look at that. He's lucky more people didn't die. According to some sources, Katerina, which I don't know if she goes short for Katie, if they got her name wrong, and the other thing, this is her, graduation. Again, will likely never have the possibility of living independently because of this man. So this is a picture of Lucy, who never even got old enough to vote. And this is Katerina before he permanently disabled her. Not to mention the trauma of this. So one of the friends on the boat, Camilla, said that before they hit this channel marker, or multiple women said this, throughout the day described a 1-for-1 drinking system among the team. So just Alvarez herself, Camilla, she said she had about 10 drinks before the collision. That's a lot, especially with someone's dad. But look, he was not given a sobriety test after the crash. I do not understand that. Anytime there's a boat accident, they should always, like this especially when they find over 60 empty alcohol container, that, I don't know, you should probably give this dude a sobriety test. What the fuck? And of course he said he had consumed 2 beers. And he didn't appear impaired, but that doesn't mean he wasn't. Look at that. 61 empty alcohol bottles and an empty champagne bottle. This is what they found. Look at all that. And that. And that. Now, his wife took the stand and shocked her. She's defending her husband. And she didn't see what happened because she was busy sending videos and texts to the girls' moms. I mean, whatever, that is what moms would do. It's awfully convenient that you didn't see at all what happened because you're so busy being a great mom. I don't actually think that she would admit if she saw him straight up do something terrible. Because usually women in this situation, they're going to do anything to try to get their man out of jail. Especially if that man is the main breadwinner. And they are, extreme pick-me's. Now, they didn't ask her if her husband had consumed alcohol that day. They found out from one of the girls and just, mentioned she'd had this little thing or whatever. And of course, she only had 1 or 2. It's always 1 or 2. Now, the only reason why things weren't worse than they are is because of good Samaritans who showed up on the scene and helped get these 2 girls out of the water and put them on the boat and were trying to, save their life while this dude was just hanging out in his other boat. Now, I know as somebody who's seen a lot of people in shock and have been in shock myself, and when I was in that steam pipe explosion in New York, I know people freeze. They never respond the way they think they will. But if it hadn't been for these good Samaritans, more people would have drowned because this man was completely worthless. After putting them in this dangerous situation, then he was completely worthless. One of the girls said that the adults were the ones who provided all this alcohol. And of course, this man is claiming that it was another boat that created this wake, and that's what happened, which is, I don't believe it for a second. Prosecutors are like, no, this is BS. No one else recalls this boat that created a huge wake. So he was distracted for unknown reasons for about 9 seconds. Of course, his attorneys are like, he was not thrill-seeking. He's not speeding, although he was. He was not doing donuts. He was not racing another boat. This is just pure and simple accident. See, this is where I want things to change. Because so many of these men harm people because of their ego, their overconfidence, their hubris, all that stuff. And then they're like, but accidents happen. It's like, no, bro, you did not have to put someone in danger like this and just get off scot-free because an accident happened. You were speeding and drinking and going the wrong way. This poor dad of Lucy died, talked about going to the hospital, seeing pieces of fiberglass all in her head, and the doctors wouldn't let them touch her because she was now evidence. Her body was evidence. This is what he said. She's a piece of evidence. And again, the girls were all drinking heavily that day. Another girl said she saw that dude drinking on the sandbar they were all hanging out on. And even the ones without permanent disability, again, some of them were unconscious, thought they had died. And this right here, 2 of the girls testified that they didn't feel safe as Pino operated the vessel. This right here tells me everything I need to know. All the rest of it could maybe be circumstantial, but if the girls on the boat say they did not feel safe, then he was driving recklessly. They're trying to say, well, even though he was going the wrong way and too fast, what he wasn't illegal because he had the proper number of life preserver and people. Okay, I hope this works. I just lost the whole second half of this video. So I'm trying again, but with less energy. Sorry, I've been having a hard time with my health and mental health as well. So I am trying to get back into the swing of things, but I'm very, whatever. Not in full form yet. Anyway, but over on Patreon, you can see me posting stuff regardless. I always post over there about like what's going on behind the scenes. Anyway, thank you, Patreon people. So the mom was trying to tell people that she, the reason why I had so many beer cans is because she was cleaning up trash. She's just a really great mom. She keeps in touch with all the moms sending videos, and all these beer cans are definitely not theirs. She was just, they were, cleaning, helping the ocean. Also, the only reason why there wasn't a worse situation is because of all these good Samaritans who stepped in, showed up, literally helped recover people out of the water, and CPR, all kinds of stuff. But the interesting part, this makes me wonder if maybe the dad has connections or something, because the state attorney's office never contacted them. Okay, so one of 3 witnesses, they didn't really contact them. Now, this is the part I want to focus on now, because I hope you take the lesson, regardless of any situation you're in, that a lot of these men, they weaponize vulnerability, they weaponize emotions, they weaponize their tears, and all of a sudden, there's big, tough, strong men until they get in trouble. And then they basically are just so loving and affectionate and kind and care and are just sensitive to avoid being in trouble. So, again, this very wealthy developer who, again, had something to drink, was speeding, was on the wrong side of the channel. He'd also been on this channel multiple times, so this is not like he was like, whoa, what is that? He knew this area. During the 9 seconds that no one can account for, because some phantom boat created a wake. There's no witnesses to confirm this, but according to him, it was some other boat that made him go crazy. That this guy was just on a collision course with this marker, and which he could not stop because he was not wearing a kill switch to stop the engine. Another failure. He failed to do the most basic things the rules of the water require. The only thing that he did do right was, I guess he has a license and he had enough flotation devices, and he didn't have too many people on board. But everything else, this man was very reckless and breaking rules. But this man was dry heaving in court. Why do you think so? Because he's facing 15 minimum, 30 years, up to 30 years max for this crime if he's guilty. The judge was getting really tired of all this crying, and they're like, he's going to need to be able to control himself. It's not proper at all for the jury to be witnessing the emotional behaviors. And of course, the judge, his attorney was like, oh, but I'm so concerned for his health. I don't think he's well. But the judge didn't want to risk this stuff because they don't want to sway the jury by having this ridiculously dramatic man, his tears, impact the jury. So they were dismissed, and then they started again on Tuesday, and again he had a hard time containing himself. His attorney was putting his arm around the client. This is all just theater, y'all. Look at that. He's a real estate developer, he's a millionaire, and he's hyperventilating. You really think he's crying about this girl? I'm not saying he doesn't have any guilt or remorse and that he has no emotions whatsoever, but I promise you, when these men are doing this, they are centering themselves. They are trying to get you to focus more on your empathy for this poor little boy, this poor man who made a mistake, and his humanity and his guilt over who should be centered, which is always the victims and the survivors and the family members of these victims and survivors. So this other crap happened. Look, as the prosecutors and defense attorneys spoke to the judge during the sidebars, people seated in the gallery approached the defendant to offer him hugs. This judge said immediately put a stop to that and said that people were actually having physical contact and hugging. It is absolutely unacceptable. This is a court of law. We're not a sporting event, not a social event. Look at this. Even though, and so then the prosecutor was like, hey, can you actually direct all of this at the defendant, though? Because, whatever. The defendant has, family and stuff in there. So, but again, I'm glad they redirected. The prosecutor urged the judge to address the defendant individually, even though he has heard me ask multiple times last week and this week not to engage in public displays of affection, especially when the jury is around. He continued to do it. He allows it to happen. Adam said, I understand the court admonishing the people that are in the room, but the main person who should be admonished is the man who's allowing it to happen, which is the defendant. So the judge addressed him and warned him not to engage in physical contact with anyone and restrict himself to writing notes to his attorney. So I love that they're calling out this manipulation, but that doesn't mean it didn't work. Anyway, there's all these allegations of the guy, like, you couldn't really remember. He has his own traumatic brain injury. I can't remember what happened in those 9 seconds. I don't know. But I don't believe in this phantom boat. I think the wife is siding with him and trying to, and of course she is, because, whatever. I understand I understand why she would side with him, but I don't think she should. But of course, they're trying to say that he momentarily lost situational awareness, but that doesn't mean that he acted recklessly. And this is the thing, again, I don't think that anytime there's an accident that someone should go to jail, right? I'm not like pro-prison. What I do want, though, is for men to be held accountable for their recklessness, how they endanger people, especially people they have systemic power over, especially people who are taught to trust them with abandon. And when they lie and say they have all of this experience, and then they do all this stuff that puts a bunch of people in danger, or even just one person in danger, I want that person to be considered as possibly on the hook for the harm that they do. Because yes, this was an accident, but I'm so tired of men getting off the hook and just being able to go on and live their lives because some accident happened, when really they made a series of choices that was terrible judgment, that was based in ego or showing off, which is part of ego, being drunk, or just doing whatever they want and not considering the impact of their actions on anyone else, especially when someone dies and is permanently disabled and a whole boat of people are traumatized. I want that person more responsible. If nothing else, I want them financially responsible. This millionaire may just go on and keep doing whatever he wants to do if he gets off. Meanwhile, these families are forever changed and have a huge financial burden that comes with a permanent disability and trauma. Again, I think I'm leaving out some of the stuff that I recorded in the first video, but hopefully I've covered it all. And thank you for your patience. Please do not believe when men do this. And again, I'm not saying that he has no remorse, that he doesn't feel anything. I am just saying this man is playing it up too much. And, as somebody who used to be, and, still am occasionally, like a storytelling coach, I have advised people, even like there's a guy who was telling a story where he caused harm. And I said, don't you dare cry when you tell this story. I know this is a very hard story for you. I know that you're remorseful. I know all that stuff, but you better keep it together. If you cry during this story, everyone's going to fucking hate you. And he cried. He didn't keep it together, so he wasn't really ready to tell the story. He cried multiple times, and the audience was fucking pissed, right? Because again, you're going back to centering yourself. You have to keep it together. And I get it. We can't always keep it together, but this man, there is no way he is actually genuinely this out of control with his emotions. To me, this is just a ploy to weaponize the way that women are taught to really center men, center their discomfort, center their pain, center their remorse or whatever over the impact of the horrific shit they've done, even if it was an accident. Anyway, let me know what y'all think. Thanks for watching. Thanks for your patience. I had to take some time off to deal with health stuff and other stuff, and I'm trying to get back into it, but thanks for being here. Please comment, like, share, and follow my Patreon if you really want to support my work financially, so I can keep doing this and so I don't burn out and have disappear. I'm overwhelmed with this work. Anyway, but thank you for watching. Thank you so much. Et voilà. Oh, and trust yourself. Go to these things that you want to do. If you want to climb, if you want to get in the outdoors, if you want to get into boating, I'm not saying don't do those things, but please, please, please stop trusting men to be the ones who help you realize those dreams. Please stop trusting men with abandon. And if you do find yourself in the wilderness or in any situation where you're uncomfortable, it may not work, but you do have a voice and you can demand, like, stand up to these men and refuse to do this or that or the other, because this is your life. This is your life in their hands. And a lot of them really do not understand the responsibility of what they've taken on or the danger that they are involved in until it's too late and someone's dead. Please do not take that risk with men. Some of them are trustworthy, but you don't know which ones, so please vet harsh. Anyway, et voilà. Instead of a comment song today, I'm going to show you some footage from my quick trip to Paris to be on a podcast where my hotel was paid for and everything. Pretty fucking cool. Anyway, this was in Paris. Those are the Les Pompiers, the firefighters. causing some waves. And this is a Napoleon themed chocolate shop. I don't know why you want to be proud of that kind of chocolate, but anyway, it's 38 euros for 12 tiny pieces of chocolate in this beautiful place. Anyway, check out my Patreon if you want to see more of that and other stuff. Et voilà.